So, how do you think young athletes need to be building their savings for retirement during their playing years, and how can they continue that after their athletic careers are over?
So first things first with young athletes, a lot of guys that, end up getting drafted, signing as free agents at a young age, anywhere from 18 to, that 25-year-old range. Um, for me, it was hard to keep track of what was coming in, what was going out, especially when you're young, you don't have much income, and you don't really know exactly what to do when you start making the money that you do in professional sports. For me as a baseball player in the minor leagues, you don't get paid that much money, so every single dollar essentially counts towards whatever your plan is if you have a family and everything like that. But I would say a lot of athletes just need to, I think, just be financially literate and start reading up on different ways to manage their finances, establish a retirement savings, and just kind of check the boxes of what the necessary things that need to be done are.
And what should athletes avoid when trying to diversify their business portfolio and for preparing for retirement?
I would say overspending is probably the biggest thing with a young athlete, especially ones that end up breaking into the major league, whether it's the major league in baseball, football, whatever it is that income starts rising is spending within your means and not increasing that cost of living. I've seen it way too often where athletes, get a big chunk of change and they go out and purchase things just that are not, financially responsible, and it can come back to bite them because you don't know how long that career is going to last for you, and you don't know how much is going to be guaranteed, from the get go. So I think that's the biggest thing plaguing young athletes today is the want and the pressure to spend more at that young age instead of getting all your ducks in a row and making sure that you have you know you're a little more conservative with those first spending assumptions when you get enter professional sports.
And this is a bit of a newer issue, but for collegiate athletes at least, how do NIL deals sort of change the landscape?
I mean, it's changed it drastically. When I was in college, that didn't exist. The transfer, whether it's a transfer portal or NIL money, didn't exist. I was actually having a conversation the other day about it. I mean, it's absolutely amazing that these athletes now that are able to get that money, that NIL money, to further their not only academic but collegiate career. It's a big deal for a lot of guys coming from impoverished areas that may not be able to afford college because there's just no scholarships or the financial aid isn't enough. So that is a huge deal with college athletes today, and I'm all for it.
So, are there any specific retirement accounts or investment options that are particularly beneficial for athletes?
Um, I would say a lot of athletes, especially before the years they make a lot of money. Obviously, it depends on the sport, depends on the athlete. I know there's different compensation levels for across all the sports. I'm more well versed in baseball, and I know minor league guys do not make a lot of money when they first start out in professional baseball. So establishing an IRA or a Roth are definitely probably the best type of retirement accounts for professional athletes to have. Another one is just starting a brokerage account. Just having a taxable brokerage account to start to put some money in and save up for if you already have a family, you're planning on starting a family, having that as a emergency slash long term potential to start building that from a young age, and then if you make it to the big leagues, great. That's another conversation in its own. But having that at least those good habits to build financial success for the next 5 to 10 years.
And what do you think are the main financial challenges that athletes face when planning for retirement?
I would definitely say retiring at a young age. Even if you have an amazing career and you were blessed to play professional sports for anywhere from like 10 to 20 years, and you retire, in your 30s to 40s, that's a long time of retirement. The average retiree, we're looking at 20 to 30 years maybe, retiring in their 60s, but now you got to add on another 20 to 25, maybe even 30 years. So making that money last, which means, you probably need to save more, your savings targets need to be higher. And depending on your style of living, you may have to, you know, go into some sort of other business when you retire. I have a lot of friends that are ex-athletes that, you know, didn't necessarily retire when they wanted to, but they were forced into retirement from professional sports. And it's a struggle trying to either get that compensation back up to what it was, or, not saving enough during those years where they wish they would have. And it's a big struggle for a lot of, guys that have great careers and guys that have shorter careers.
You mentioned it a little bit, but is it different for athletes who had to retire early from sports, whether it was an injury or they were forced to retire? Is it a bit of a more of a challenge for them? And if so, how do you think that they can overcome that?
Yeah, I think it definitely is. When things aren't planned out the way that foresee them. You expect, you break into the big leagues, you're having, a great few years, and that continues. That's great, but when things stop drastically, you need to have a plan in place, especially for your family and everything around you. That you need to have enough to get you through those times and have a plan after sports. It's one of the toughest things to not only financially but mentally to get over if that's your whole life for since you were 5 years old for most of these guys, and guys and women. Like it's a hard burden mentally to get over, and then having that plan in place to say what interests me off the field, you know that that becomes a hard conversation with your family, your friends, and within yourself.
Do you think that the stock market is a viable option for athletes looking to maybe invest, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say, like, be kind of a nerd with with the market, and be a nerd with financial literacy. It's something that I talk to friends that are in the big leagues, or in professional sports, and it's just something that just really isn't taught growing up in school, and even when they enter professional sports. They get a lot of people asking them left and right, like, hey, let me manage this for you. But it's doing your own homework and understanding that, you know, what you have is a blessing, but you also need to understand it to a certain extent of what you're getting yourself into, what this means, and how do you move forward, you know, from that career, or ending that career, or whatever it is.
So I think we covered a lot of avenues with this issue. Is there anything that I missed that we should point out?
I would just say again, like, being on the baseball side, like, from the minor league standpoint, like, there isn't a lot that athletes can do from a financial standpoint, other than just trying to save as much as they can. But once you get into that big leagues, it's understanding the packages and the options that there are at this level, like 401k, the 401k plans that different leagues have, the pension options that different leagues have, knowing when you're fully vested, knowing when knowing how much that the the league is going to contribute to your 401k plan, knowing these types of things. How is that going to affect, if I make a contribution, how is that going to affect my taxes? Like, looking at all of these certain things when you get that documentation of, like, here's your 401k plan, here's your pension plan, here's your health insurance. Understanding those concepts, like, at least in the generality, and how that kind of plays into your life, your physical life, and your personal life, and understanding those. I think a lot of athletes just kind of bypass that, or pass it to their agent or their financial advisor if they have one, and they don't really understand it themselves, and it can sometimes come back to bite them, or may have regret further down the line of not doing something they should have.
Mhm. Thank you so much for your time.
No problem.